What's up, everybody? I'm James. Welcome to Mechanical Mayhem, and welcome back to the Mechwarrior 5 Clan story-driven campaign playthrough, where we experience the cutscenes, the banter, emissions, and all that jazz, utilizing stock mechs only, which can include hero mechs as well. And this is part 22. We press ever onwards on Courchevel. We're not done with Courchevel. In fact, I feel like we spend probably the most time on this planet in the campaign, so hopefully you are well and truly settled in for this planet. But we have a pretty cool mission ahead of us. I really like this mission both aesthetically and it's got a lot of lore behind it, so it's helpful to teach you as well if you are newer to this Battletech universe. In any case, get strapped in, prepare for drop. Here we go.
Cobalt. With the planetary militia refusing to stand down, one of our key targets on Courchevel is under threat. During the days of the Star League, the SLDF operated a logistics depot designed to facilitate supplying the nearby 34th Royal Battle Mech and 68th Jump Infantry divisions. According to the Dragoons, these facilities were prime targets during the succession wars for the Vultures to pick clean. Very few survived the centuries of conflict. But orbital surveillance shows that the Courchevel depot remains intact.
If that is true, then that base is hallowed ground. We cannot let the militia take control of it.
We cannot. Jaden, your star's mission is to investigate and secure the facility before the militia lays claim to it. Cobalt's insertion point will be here, far enough from any possible hostiles that may be in the facility. Access the base through the main gate and make your way to the inner sanctum of the mech hangars. You will be given our archived SLDF access codes for the facility, which should grant you access to the entirety of the depot. Star League facilities like this are sacred to our people. You will do everything in your power to secure this facility in the name of the Smoke Jaguars, no matter the cost. Be prepared for anything.
It will be our honor, Star Colonel.
Alrighty, Voices of the Past. Enough tonnage for a full star of Timberwolves. Each one's in a different configuration. I'm in the Prime. And we're going to take it to them. So, it was cool to have a Star League depot put in as a mission, because the Star League are what the clans are descended from, and the clans view Star League stuff pretty much as sacred, more or less, right? Like, it's this closest thing to religiosity for them, if you will, in the setting for the clans. So that's just really cool to see it here. I really like this mission. I really like the terrain features, the location, the way it's set up. I think they did a really good job with that. The depot really feels like a built-up depot once we get there. The Courchevel location is unique, and it just really works well together. So we're right outside of it. You can see it in the distance already. The walls, right? Makes you wonder how these depots would be kind of hard to find, and I suppose it's because the locations typically are wiped from star maps and whatnot. So they see this and they think it's just some abandoned like facility or fortress or whatever, and the outer parts of the facility are not going to be, really displaying what's inside their inner sanctums and their hangars and whatnot. So there might not be anything there, or maybe there is, right? But anyways, as we see, we get into the facility and we have the enemy outside, and we are going to clear them out. We got ourselves an engine kill with missiles, I believe, so that's cool. And now we are clearing out the trash, as it were. We got a Panther, we have light mechs, medium mechs, heavy mechs, vehicle assets. So plenty of targets to choose from, to attack. A decent amount of tonnage outside, to be honest. But even outside of the facility, we see some buildings out there. Now, whether or not those were put up in the centuries after Star League left, or some of them were around since the beginning, is unknown. So I have, like I said, a star full of Timberwolves because there's no reason not to. It's a super good chassis, right? And we have 375 tons, I believe, is the mission cap, which is just enough for 5 Timberwolves. This is why you could have a gargoyle amongst your mitts and maybe something else, like a summoner to kind of play off the weight or whatever. I find for this mission, even on an expert difficulty, I like having just 5 Timberwolves. They're really powerful, whether it's custom builds or stock builds. So here we are, taking it to them. So I like to try and have my star fighting mechs, and either then when they pretty much cripple it, or if I pretty much cripple it, we will swap targets more or less, unless there's not enough targets to have that kind of variety. I do this because a mech that's about to be destroyed, it's less it's less economical for your ammunition and whatnot to have 4 mechs, the remainder of my star, using up ammunition on it when they could be peppering down a fresher mech and so on. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Don't forget to scan, because we want to get the salvage components. So that's what I'm going to do before we move forward. So we're about to get access to an SLDF facility, which is pretty cool. These facilities are pretty much locked up, so don't expect, to be in the best of shape. Centuries of not being used is going to take its toll on anything. Here we go. We have access. Yep. Alexander Kerensky, the orchestrator of the Exodus, the father of Nicholas Kerensky, who founded the clans. That was a cool message to get. And I really like this facility. It's in disuse, obviously, and dilapidated, but this is very dense terrain-wise, concept-wise. Like, in terms of buildings and stuff to be around. It's just really cool. I like it. It would make a fantastic display board or a miniature wargaming kind of terrain setup. It feels really cool. It feels like classic BattleTech, if you will. I just really like it. So as we just bomb through everything to get to where we gotta go, it's just a really cool facility concept. Really like that outer layer, if you will. So we can see that clearly somebody's been in here because the codes were changed. So now we gotta go back through this cool terrain feature and find some codes. This is an interesting mission because we had that battle combat in the beginning, and now we just have this kind of, I don't want to call it exploration, but because we don't have to go anywhere crazy, but we have this kind of calm period, right? There's no combat going on. We're just trying to gain access to the facility and make use of our codes or find things and move on from there. So you really don't have as much combat necessarily in this mission as even the mission prior, and or even earlier missions in the campaign, because it's kind of a mission of discovery slash exposition in a way. We get a nice sense of lore going on here as we just perform some, renovations to the buildings around here as we march. So now we have a Comstar message, which is interesting. This is setting up some lore that not, for the game a bit, but also is giving us information that's been in the lore for a while. So if you're new to this setting, this is pretty cool to see. As we see that this is in the early days of Comstar, so both by the time that it's said date stamp wise, and how we're talking about character stuff. Toyama is the second leader of Comstar after Jerome Blake. So we hear about this religious kind of cult concept in Comstar, which is a thing. It's been a thing in the lore. And it's kind of funny, because this would eventually lead to the Word of Blake group that would eventually separate from Comstar centuries later. But what's funny about it is, according to the lore, he's talking about Jerome Blake being a man of science and reason. And that's true, but evidently, according to the lore, the Comstar being transformed to a religious concept was Blake's idea that Toyama is enacting. So it's an interesting situation, because he's not wrong, but he's also not 100% right. And I just find that neat. So as we get further into this inner sanctum, we see the buildings are less densely, populated around. There's still facilities. Well, I don't know what it would have been here. There's a big building off to the left. A really cool mission, because we get some cool lore about the Draconis Combine and the lengths they went through here. We get a setup of Comstar, and we get to just see a massive facility. And there is no real combat going on here. We don't have a timer or anything. We can take our time going through this place, so you can really take the time to explore it if you wanted to. Looks like a portion of a dropship that's destroyed. Pretty cool setup. So as we just heard, Draconis Combine basically came into this facility thinking they were finding SLDF equipment, and Evans was really surprised that they heard about this place and found them, because he wiped it from databanks and everything. So the only people who would know about this were people like the Primus and all that of Comstar, because they have access to it, and they were from the same time period Evans was, and the Ancient Star League. So he's thinking that they were fed information, and then the Combine used gas on them, which is a pretty malicious tactic. So we get a sense of some of the cutthroat nature of the Draconis Combine through lore of the past. So we're in the Inner Sanctum, and we're seeing that they have tech that's ours, right? They have Inner Sphere tech. They have our type of tech going on here. In fact, one of them is going to have our, as Mia says, we have 360-second tags on one of these pieces of equipment. So clearly they're getting equipment, salvaging it. Alrighty. This is how we find out that things are really getting into the deep end now. The ISF is their security force, more or less, their intelligence, their spycraft group, if you will. This is beyond just standard military. This is like special ops level stuff to try and acquire technology. We can see that the Draconis Combine are really interested in getting this technology for themselves. So however they got this stuff, we've discovered it in the Inner Sanctum. And now we are just wanting to get out, right? Because we're kind of caught in not so much a trap, kind of. We kind of put the trap on ourselves by clearing out the enemy forces and digging through this facility. Now that we found it, it's time to stay alive and basically fight off the enemies here, because we're going to take control of this facility and deny them what's in here. So what you're seeing me doing with these doors opening is I'm hanging back and waiting for my star to go forward first. The reason I'm doing this is I've had on several occasions, if I rush out first, the doors will start closing and could trap a member of my star behind the doors, and the doors will not reopen. So the best way I found to kind of deal with that is to have my star move to defend a location on the other side of the door before I do, because the door closes with me, it looks like, not with time. So as such, I have them all leave first. This does mean it takes an extra second to get to the turret control to hack it, but it ensures nobody gets stuck behind a wall, which is really annoying. I always hit the wrong button, by the way, which is why I paused it there. I didn't mean to pause it. When I'm in, for some reason, half the time when I'm inside like scan mode or something, I'll hit escape as opposed to just tab, and then it pauses it instead of taking me out of scan mode. So I did scan the turret control. We gained access to the turrets. They definitely took out the turrets here. There's not a lot, but what we will see is a boatload of turrets to our support later on, which I feel like was added in a patch, because I did this mission in the first, when the game first came out, and I was beyond this mission before the first big hotfix, so I don't know. I didn't really read too deeply into what was done, but I definitely feel like they added more turrets in this section. I don't know. There's a lot more turrets than I remember for us once we hacked the turret controls, so definitely hack them. There's a repair facility here. I typically would make use of it myself, because typically at this juncture I am the one more damaged, but it turns out I'm not in this case, so I am letting one of my star mates make use of this facility, because why not? There is one more repair facility, and I intend to make use of that in the next one, so I just figured, I know there's more repair facilities, you just don't get too hyper aggressive, tank some of the hits for your star, and you'll be repaired just fine. So we go out, obviously, and open up these doors. They don't close behind us, so the enemy is able to rush in and occupy these positions, but this is a turret control tower. Now look at the radar, or the sensors. Look at, that's a lot of turrets at the end of the day that just come online around them, and they're like large laser turrets and whatnot, so they're definitely putting the hurt on the enemy forces here, and there's a lot of them. So was definitely unexpected, for sure. But I'll take it. I just never, either I didn't pay attention to my sensors that much when I went through this on expert and whatnot, but or they were added. I'm not sure, but I'll take it because it's definitely helpful. It ensures that we have support without having like an allied mech star for us, which we know they are scrambling forces. So they are sending reinforcements to us. There's an ammo crate still, so I'll probably scan it for good measure. And there's a turret control tower. We scan this one. And this also has a lot of turrets on our help. So there's a lot of turrets in this facility. So this is the last bit of firefight we're going to have in this area. And they definitely throw some weight at us. But between the turrets, which they are focusing on, taking up their time to destroy and getting hit by them, and this powerful star, we are really going to be okay. One thing I always try to do, just in general, is there's a cataphract, there's a marauder, and there's a hunchback somewhere. And I lost sight of it, but I'll hear it. There it is. We want to take out the hunchback because of its autocannon. Sometimes that autocannon doesn't do much at all. Sometimes that AC-20 really hurts. So whenever I see a hunchback, I don't know why I forgot the word there, I always try to prioritize its destruction, or at least the crippling of that section of torso, that right torso, to take out the autocannon. Otherwise, marauders and cataphracts are good targets as well to deal with. The Vulcan, obviously want to destroy everything, but there's certain target prioritization that if you are capable of doing so, I would do. And the reason I say it that way is because this is kind of densely packed terrain, so you might not be able to just target the cataphract over the Vulcan first. So whatever you got in front of you, just take it out more or less. With that being done, we got one more repair facility, which I will make use of here, and we are going to be out into the open. I really like this mission. You have a nice calm point where you get lore exposition and whatnot. You get more inundated with the setting of BattleTech, and then we find out what's going on lore of the campaign wise. This is an ISF depot, it looks like, or at least the ISF have turned this into a place to store equipment and technology as salvage. And then we got to fight our way out. So we have an allied star outside providing support. It's weird, depending upon the difficulty rating that you're playing at, sometimes this star will be like very ineffective to help and will be mostly gone by the time you're done. Other times they will be really useful or, last just fine. It's a bit of a crapshoot. I've had this on expert where they were virtually unharmed and we just chewed through everything, and I had it once on this normal playthrough for funsies where like we weren't slouches, but Alexander's star just got annihilated more or less when we were out here. I guess it depends on how the AI targets things, but pay attention to the enemy mechs. They're going to have melee equipment on them. There's going to be a decent amount out here. They're going to try and come in from multiple sides. The extra star is nice. They'll put some damage down range for, in addition to us, and they can also take some shots. I like to try and keep as many of them alive as possible, because they are here to bail us out more or less, so it just feels like I should, but at the same time, I'm more than happy to let them take some hits and dish out some damage. I like to utilize range here, and the Timberwolves, for the most part, have decent range potential regardless of the configuration we're in. So, we have just encountered the ISF for the first time, on that data core. The ISF is the Draconis Combine's kind of intelligence group, and they are, between planetary militia and even other forces, the ISF really ensure that the interests of the Draconis Combine, central government, you could say, and rulers and whatnot, is expressed and maintained. And in critical situations such as this crazy tech that they're encountering, they're going to make sure they can get their hands on some, no matter the cost, more or less. And this is a perfect kind of like shadow campaign concept for them to do that. They can utilize the Luthien Armor Works to supply the militias to really have them just take the brunt of damage and get bled out while they try and hurt us in an attempt to get technology for the ISF and the Draconis Combine. And given the fact that they are what they are, they're going to be followed, like their orders are going to be followed without question, and therefore the ISF can truly try and get what they want. You know what I mean? It's a whole nother layer of opposition than just dealing with defense forces and military forces. So with that mission done, we will get some salvage, of course, and we will level up our honor to unlock the Warhawk, which is a mech I'm a big fan of. Decent salvage, of course, because, well, we have max salvage acquisition, so that's cool.
I can hardly believe it. To hear Alexander Kerensky's true voice. His message of hope.
He was on the right side of history. He knew the great houses were on the verge of tearing themselves apart.
It's a shame those poor souls that took refuge here paid for that with their lives. They should have gone with him. Maybe then they would have lived.
Perhaps. Or they could have died thousands of light years from home. The people who followed Kerensky were not infallible. They would eventually ignite the Pentagon Civil War after Alexander's death. Had it not been for his son Nicholas,
The clans would have never formed.
Still, he gave them all a fighting chance.
And what did that chance give them? Just a handful of years before House Kurita came and killed them all in a chemical attack.
The Combine thought they had SLDF weapons. The director accused Comstar of feeding the Kuritans false info.
Yeah. They said they were fleeing the Order. Some sort of internal purge?
Does it matter? Regardless of who they were, the Combine were still complicit in murdering them all.
It matters because Comstar are now our allies, feeding us information.
The question is, in this scenario, are we the Kuritans? Or the refugees being led to slaughter?
If Comstar ever crosses us, we will crush them just as easily as any other freeborn.
Perhaps. But we should still be cautious of what the Demi-Percenter says from now on.
What about the ISF? Now we have the Combine's intelligence agency to worry about as well. The encoded transmissions back at the base. I might be able to backtrack them with enough time.
You think so?
I think... No. I know I can do it. I've broken into our own systems enough time to know a thing or two about encryption.
Then chase it down. But do not let it distract you from your duties. I still need you focused in the field.
Will do, Star Commander.
So yeah, some pretty cool lore points about the Pentagon Civil Wars with the SLDF forces went into exile, and the fact that they're not infallible. Also, the ISF and Comstar. And this isn't why I don't trust Comstar. I know about Comstar in the lore before even this game ever came out. But this is a good point in the game that they introduced that to kind of put it in your heads if you're newer to the setting. So I really appreciated that. Because, yeah, you know, are we being led to slaughter or not? What's going on here type of situation. So I do like that a lot. So with that being said, we unlocked the Warhawk, and we are kind of getting into the thick of it lore-wise too. So now that like a lot of pieces are coming together, Comstar, the history of Comstar a bit, definitely some type of internal purge there, which is true. Draconis Combine and their furiousness and gassing people, like that callous nature, and the ISF, their intelligence agency, having to deal with that. It's all kind of coming into play. We're getting more of an insight into the setting at large, not just Clan Smoke Jaguar, which is cool because sometimes you don't get that in a game. We just get your focus, but here we are learning and getting more information as a player, right? If you don't know it. So that's really cool. Just doing the typical stuff after missions, checking the pilots and doing some, I want to say upgrades, but like experience allocation and spending merit points to try and bolster both research and repair capabilities, because you never can be too careful. The ultimate goal is 25 repair technicians. After that, I don't care about the repair technicians, but because 5 is the maximum number of techs that can work in any one mech, right? So if I have 30 or whatever, it doesn't matter if the mechs can't be fully repaired with 5 techs on them, you know what I mean? So just some food for thought. Anyways, getting some research done, getting some upgrades going on. Really like that mission. A nice exposition style of mission if you are newer to the lore, and if you know the lore, it's just cool to see the attention to detail, and I appreciate that level of stuff. So unlocked one of my favorite assault mechs, the Warhawk. Can't wait to make use of that. And that's pretty much it. Call it a mission, right? Successful, tore through a bunch of enemy mechs. We pretty much have control of that facility now, so that's also cool. Don't forget to save, and until next time, take care.